That's right, the title doesn't deceive you. I'm going to be playing through every single main series Pokemon game, from Yellow to Violet. I have a short video out explaining the rule set of this ongoing series, where every video will be me playing through one Pokemon game. But if you don't mind just picking up the rules as you go, the gists of it are we go by standard Nuzlocke rules to start, and on top of that, Generation Lock rules, where we have to take the surviving champion team, scale them down to level 5, slap Junior or another title on their name, and bring them to the next game. To make this series even more difficult, no repeat Pokemon. This means if I use a Pokemon in battle, it is the only one I get of it, and if it faints or I don't bring it into the next generation with me, it is gone. This can make it especially difficult since I'll practically be playing the same exact game 2 or 3 times in a row, making new encounters hard to come by and deaths excruciatingly difficult to deal with. Before we go any further, this video and this series as a whole takes a lot of effort to make, so if you enjoyed this at all, please leave a like in the video and subscribe. It really means a lot to me, and I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs by the end of the year. Welcome to the Nuzlocke. I started my journey and was very intimidated by the sheer amount of time I would have to commit to this. I mean, 37 games in a row, no wipes. That's another level of no lifer behavior. I was thinking about which starter I would choose when I was jumped by a sewer rat I found outside my house. I, of course, beat it over the head with a nearby 2x4, named her Light, and wished her luck. As I went through the game as you would any other playthrough, I realized that even though this is a Nuzlocke, I probably shouldn't carry a full team on me, since I need to really think about every encounter I use. That being said, I went to pick up a Mankey off Route 22, but ended up getting a Nidoran female instead, so welcome to the team, Seamoon. Before you say it, yes, the game got shot by the overlay. We end up fixing this later in the video. You're just gonna have to bear with me. Not much after catching Seamoon happened. I just, went through Viridian Forest, got some levels, and we went on to Brock. Even though Nidoran Female is the tankier of the two forms, when I faced Brock, I opted to do the surprise play of throwing in Light first to lower Geodude's attack. I knew this would be the safe play since none of Brock's Pokemon know any ground-type moves. After Geodude went down from a couple double kicks, Onix came in and I was feeling a little worried. This feeling turned into primal fear when this motherfucker outsped me and set up Bide right when I was going for double kick. I decided my best course of action would be to spam Growl to lower his attack. It worked quite well since we tanked the Bide and hit him with another Growl. He then proceeds to use Bind, which is very annoying because in Gen 1, moves like Bind and Wrap do not allow you to counterattack. He even got in another tackle before I was able to retaliate with another double kick. Onix survives on a sliver, but then of course blunders and uses Bide, which I used to my advantage, and turn his Rock Snake into kinetic sand with a final double kick. And with that we got our first badge.
Where'd he go?
Steve?
Hey, I wonder how many badges and Z crystals we'll need by the end of this run anyway. Well, 102 down. Let's get a move on. After going through Mount Moon, we had to beat up a scientist because he didn't like to share. So me and my squad taught him a valuable life lesson. His grammar and Voltorb posed little threat, but then he whipped out his trump card coughing and proceeded to give my Nidoran a healthy dose of COVID-19. My Nidoran was feeling a bit under the weather, so I switched out and combusted the coughing with my feral Giga Rodent. The sheer violence witnessed by my Nidoran mixed with the rampant respiratory virus in her lungs caused her to evolve into a Nidorina. Our first evolution of the series, as well as our second evolution in the series, because as soon as we left Mount Moon, we evolved her again. This was going to be huge because we just lost everyone? We lost. Yeah, I lost my Pikachu. And my Nidoqueen soon after. And then lost a Bellsprout I caught, so that's attempt 1. So on stream with my buddy Camelot and Reaper, I just ran through the game again since we were so early on. It wasn't like we lost much progress. And since I wasn't using a very complicated team, I got lucky and got my Nidoran encounter again. So I was able to have the same team as before. Except that Bellsprout you saw earlier is no longer with us. The RNG gods did not bless us that hard. So anyway, after our totally not necromance team dusted themselves off from a totally easy clean sweep from Nugget Bridge, we went to see what we would get for our encounter to help us against Misty. And this time we found an Oddish. I really didn't want to use Oddish since I felt it would have been more valuable in the team in later generations with its updated move pool and branch evolution, so I named it Messy and boxed it for later. We then made our way to Bill's house, who was doing some questionable things in his basement, but never mind that because he gave us a golden ticket and told us to shoo. And that is exactly what we did. After a bit of grinding in the grass, we entered Misty's gym and I decided to make the risky play not to use the Oddish I encountered, solely because I wanted to save my encounters as much as possible, especially during the first leg. So to start out the Misty battle, I again led with the unorthodox decision to lead with Sea Moon, who I believed could overpower a Staryu, and I turned out to be right as it went down in 2 double kicks. Next we switched into Light for Starmie, and I was honestly a bit intimidated since I would usually just sweep it with a grass type, but we don't have that. So I used Thunder Wave against her X defend, and then I used Double Team to cheese the battle as much as I could. Starmie ended up being paralyzed for both that turn and this turn that I used Thunder Shock here. So I just keep spamming Thunder Shock while Starmie spams being paralyzed, and that's our second gym badge down. After that, I hopped down to the daycare and caught myself a Jigglypuff named Booba and a Drowsy named Mr. Cosby. And after that, blah blah blah, boring SS and stuff. Then, me and my sisters and Arceus, Light and Sea Moon go down to terrorize a war veteran for our 3rd badge. For some weird reason, Lieutenant Surge uses an X speed on his Raichu, so I can get a free body slam dealing about half health, and ironically, paralyzing the electric type. I get another body slam in, bringing Raichu to a sliver. It tries to kick back in retaliation, but Sea Moon simply brushes it off and gives it a very swift to the head, winning us our 3rd badge. Now, I knew me and my team were on a roll for now, but the gyms only got much harder from here, and I knew I would need to add a new member to my team quickly. So I added Mr. Cosby, and I did this for multiple reasons. For one, it evolved pretty quickly for the stage we were at in the game, as well as it was a Psychic type, which if you don't already know, is insanely OP in Gen 1 for many reasons. Honestly, I may have to do a short video on it sometime. Anyway, I decided Drowsy would be the best pick for this and not someone like Mr. Mime, because Drowsy gets quickly outclassed by future Psychic type Pokemon, so we wouldn't have to worry about using this one early on. Welcome to the team, Mr. Cosby. We then got to work leveling him up and we got ourselves a beautiful Hypno. Just gotta make sure not to let him out of my sight. Anyway, we went to Celadon next, got our hands on a Thunderstone and evolved Light. Wait a minute, evolved Light? How do you evolve a Pikachu in this game? I thought the game doesn't let you. Yeah, I changed a couple rules in this game. Call me a cheater all you want, but since we have to utilize as many evolutions in Pokemon as we can, I used Universal Pokemon Randomizer so I could do trade evolutions in game, and so I could evolve my Pikachu into a Raichu, but that was really the only thing I modify across the board for the Nuzlocke. So anyway, after we evolved Light and we got a well-deserved shopping spree with my fully evolved team, we went over to Erica's gym and proceeded to put Mr. Cosby to the test, since most of her Pokemon are also Poison type. Erica led with Tangela, which, fun fact, was the only pure Grass type of Generation 1. Anyway, we put it to sleep and switched into Light and quickly realized Thunderbolt was not going to do enough damage. We set up quite a few double teams, then it wakes up, so we hit it with Thunder Wave as it uses Wrap against Light, trapping us for a few turns. We follow up with a Quick Attack, and I quickly realized spamming Quick Attack is somehow going to be our best shot. After we take down our first Pokemon, we switch out to Mr. Cosby, who hits us with a Dollar Store Acid, so we dish out a Confusion doing about half health. It misses Razor Leaf, so we finish it off with another Confusion. Gloom comes out, and we start to see trouble because I miss Hypnosis and Gloom lands Stun Spore, paralyzing us. It then proceeds to use Petal Dance and... Oh, wait, that didn't do too much. We're fine. Anyway, after a Confusion, it starts to thrash about, getting us really low. Speaking of low, I make the low IQ play of using Disable, and disabled its Sleep Powder. Thank goodness for that. I then use my healing item and switch out to Sea Moon the next turn I get. Gloom does some pretty hefty damage, but a final body slam took it out. This battle overall gave me two things. For one, it gave me some insight about the rest of this run, and that there's no solve-all solution. A Psychic type alone isn't going to win us a run, and it's going to be our commitment and our attention to detail and strategies that will take us through this journey on the path to victory. And it also gave us a badge too. Let's go, baby! Next gym! I was at first really worried about Koga. Its team variety-wise in yellow is laughable, but it knows Psychic type moves and like all of its Pokemon know Toxic, making it incredibly deadly if we don't sweep it. I started by paralyzing his Venonat. The Venonat uses Toxic, so I use Thunderbolt, and Koga's first Pokemon is down. Koga then sends out his Grimer. Oh wait, I forgot this is yellow and his team is garbage. Anyway, he sends out his second Venonat and boom, dead. And the third one knocks itself out with its own recoil. Classy. Koga decides to send out the big guns and throws out Venomoth, so we have Mr. Cosby at the ready. Koga uses Leech Life, and of course Mr. Cosby takes that personally, so he retaliated with his 100% Deet Psychic, and there we have it, our 5th badge. If you haven't noticed, though, the overlay has been fixed, so you can read Pokemon's names. Honestly, I was really proud of myself. 5 badges, no deaths, this attempt, and I was loving my team. Since Koga's and Serena's levels were almost identical, I headed over ready to take badges and eat rare candy. And I was all out of rare candy. I wished my team luck, and with an aura of confidence, the 4 of us charged full throttle into battle. Light one-shots her Abra with a single Thunderbolt, and Kadabra's up next. I try and play it safe and use Thunder Wave. It was fully paralyzed, so I went the extra safe route and set up a double team. My hope was I was going to be able to sweep with just Raichu with double team and paralysis cheese, but Serena had other plans. A single psychic from her Kadabra heavily damaged my Raichu, and I knew I could outspeed it, but I wasn't certain I could KO, and on the off chance I didn't and it somehow broke through paralysis and double team, it would mean the end of my beloved starter. So I switched out, and it all went downhill from there. Dr. Cosby traded a couple hits with Kadabra and got it to a sliver of HP. Things were starting to look even brighter still, because she also wasted an X defense on her 1 HP Kadabra. We tanked a Psychic before finally landing the KO on Kadabra, and I was feeling worried. Alakazam is one of the strongest Pokemon of Gen 1, and my team was not in peak fighting condition. And to make matters worse, I had no reliable pivot. But I couldn't give up now, so I stayed in on Dr. Cosby and faced off against the Alakazam. It used an X defense while I missed my Poison Gas, and its Psy-Wave didn't do too much damage, but neither did my Headbutt. And to make matters worse, it stacked that X defense with a Reflect, rendering my most powerful attack in this fight now useless. I still pushed onwards, knowing Headbutt was my only hope, as Hypnosis and Poison Gas clearly did not have high enough accuracy rate to safely bet on. For some reason, this time Psy-Wave does huge damage, and my Headbutt wasn't doing enough damage to keep up. I used my one healing item on Mr. Cosby, while Alakazam did a huge chunk of it back with another Psy-Wave. Realizing I had no other choice but to face the music, I used Poison Gas, hoping to give my other Pokemon a fighting chance. To no avail. It missed, letting Alakazam hit us with Psychic, surprisingly doing little damage. This gave me hope that I could have enough of an opportunity to land a status on Alakazam, but looking back, this was a stupid play. If I had just kept using Headbutt, I definitely would have gotten the KO, but I chose to play it safely, as I chose to call it. Alakazam had now just revealed to me it can learn Recover, and the battle was feeling hopeless. It got back to full health, while I was still over here at yellow HP spamming status moves that for some reason would not land to save my life. I realized I'm one shot, and I need to rethink my strategy. But I checked my team, and I had completely forgotten I had nobody to pivot into. Light was at half from a Kadabra's attack, so it would have definitely been one shot. And Sea Moon is a poison type, meaning it would have been a death sentence. I decided this was the best chance of victory I would have, and with a heavy heart, I sacrificed Mr. Cosby to allow us a safe switch in. Now, surprise, surprise, my stupid choices did not end here. Don't ask why, because I don't even know. I had clicked on Sea Moon thinking, oh, let me check their summaries before I go in. Not remembering that this isn't a thing in Gen 1, so I sent out my Nidoqueen against Alakazam. In this dire situation, there was only one thing I could do. Spam Horn Drill, hoping for an Oko. It was risky, but it just might work. Nope, one Psychic killed her. At this point, I already felt defeated. I came into this gym battle way in over my head, and lost both of my other Pokemon, and both to stupid and entirely avoidable mistakes that were all my fault. And all I had left was my starter at half health, who was for sure doomed to the almighty special stat of Alakazam. But realizing I had come much too far into the run to accept defeat, I chose to push on, using her signature move Thunderbolt. It did about a quarter HP, to which Alakazam simply shrugged it off and used Recover. This time I used Thunder Wave, and thanks to full paralysis set up a double team, and then another one thanks to Yellow's bad AI. I followed up with a very lucky crit Thunderbolt and another turn of full paralysis. The luck was incredible, and I knew then I was right for not throwing in the towel and restarting. Another Thunderbolt put it down to a sliver of HP, but we got a third paralysis in a row and finished the battle off with a final Thunderbolt. The gym leader then tells me she's shocked, and honestly so am I. We scraped by with our 6 badge, but we'd practically lost our entire team, and to make matters worse, I had made another mistake. Due to me needing to be very frugal with the encounters I use in this game, I had been straight up skipping and knocking out a lot of what would be backup members, meaning my new options for teammates were even more limited than I had thought. That was especially scary because the next 2 gyms were no joke. Blaine and Giovanni have some serious heavy hitters, and not to mention right after that would be the Elite 4, and all I had was light. But honestly, despite all of this, I wasn't scared off, because like I said, I still had light. And as long as I had her on my side, I knew there was always a chance at victory, and that every obstacle in this journey had a solution. So I did a few things to prepare for the rest of my journey, and the Pokemon Fossil Lab had a lot to do with it. Firstly, I put in my Dome Fossil from earlier, and then I found a scientist who was willing to trade Muck for Kangaskhan, and I knew Kangaskhan was a pretty heavy hitter, and it would be a great pick to bring into the next game. And luckily, I had actually caught a Grimer named Booger, so while I was waiting for my fossil to bake, I put Booger in the daycare and did a lot of running. And by a lot, I mean a lot. And then after a rare candy, I had successfully evolved it into a Muck without using it in battle. And then I realized that the scientist didn't actually want a Muck. He was the one who wanted a Kangaskhan for a Muck. Oh. Welcome to the team, Booger. After that, I picked up my Kabuto and gave him the coolest nickname ever, Slicer X. I knew I would need some more bulk on my team, but I was very tight on options, so I grabbed Booba and a Moonstone and called it a day. Welcome to the team, Booba. The ragtag team had been assembled, and I honestly wasn't too displeased, so I went through a long grinding session at the Pokemon Mansion. After that was done, my team was ready to face Blaine, but first, let me run you by my movesets. Of course, we have Light, our speedster of the team, with Thunderbolt, Double Team, Quick Attack, and Thunder Wave. Since Light lacks a physical defense, she sometimes will rely on Paralysis and Evasion Cheese in order to sweep. Next up, we got Slicer X, the all-around beast, with an incredible attack and defense, as well as some decent speed with Slash, Harden, Surf, and Ice Beam. And then we have Booba, who after training I realized is kind of terrible. She's more of the mascot of the team, with Skull Bash, Defense Curl, Rest, and Reflect. The reason I gave her this moveset though, is to help another Pokemon on the team stall out powerful Pokemon. Booba is of course partners in crime with Booger, with Mega Drain, Toxic, Minimize, and Sludge. The plan was simple. Stall where I can with Booger and Booba, and then knock out the competition with Slicer X. After blazing past the trainers, no pun intended, we faced Blaine with a new attitude. Not an overconfident one, but one of determination. We had lost most of our team, but we built back strong, and we were going in with the plan now. He sends out Ninetales while I send out Booger, and Blaine goes for a Tail Whip while we set up Toxic. Then we start to use Minimize and hope our evasion boost lets us dodge any future flamethrowers. After a couple more minimizes, Blaine somehow still lands a quick attack, getting us to about half HP. Just to play it safe, I switch into Booba, who gets absolutely toasted by Ninetales' flamethrower, but I only need 1 or 2 more turns before Ninetales goes down, so with this in mind I use Rust. But Ninetales comes in with a quick attack, dealing even more damage, but sucks to suck because Booba rested to full health and Ninetales ran out of HP, so her flamethrower was all in vain. Next up is Rapidash, and I decide we've done enough stalling and we can send out the big guns. Slicer X had one flaw though. Its special stat is atrocious, and in Gen 1 there's no physical water moves, so we just use Surf and hope for the best, which actually got Rapidash surprisingly low. It retaliates with a takedown, but we absolutely tank it, and then finish Rapidash off with a quick Slash. We then use another Slash on Arcanine, but it only did about a quarter health. We then tank a Fire Blast with our quad resistance to fire and get it to red HP with a Surf. Arcanine sets up Reflect because of terrible AI, and we secure our 7th gym badge with another Surf. Our final hurdle with the gym badges with Giovanni, and I realized we'd ran into yet another problem. Giovanni's team was kinda stacked. Most of his Pokemon knew Earthquake, which wrecked Light, Booger, and Slicer X due to his rock typing. And even then, we couldn't get much use out of Slicer X because his Nidoking and Queen had access to Thunder and Double Kick for Booba. So we went back to the boxes to add another team member. But like I said earlier, our options were scarce. I eventually settled on a Pokemon who we had used many times before on our journey, but never actually got to get any usage on the battlefield. So for the 8th and final gym badge, I decided to bring Messi to the team. After a long grinding session, we turned this little spring onion into a roided up bloomin' onion, ready to win the World Cup. We also taught it Solar Beam, Cut, Petal Dance, and Sleep Powder. We also taught Slicer X Hydro Pump in exchange for Harden. So I wish my team good luck, and we went straight for the Mafia boss of Kanto. Called a lucky guess, but I predicted Doug Trio using Dig, so I led with a Solar Beam, and since I was correct, we managed to get ourselves a free KO to start the battle off. Giovanni's got Persian out next, so we switch into Booger. I used Toxic because I noticed this Persian had Double Team, and I did not want to get out-cheesed during this fight. After it used Double Team, I proceeded to do the same. I just pretty much spammed Minimize as it failed to hit me or do any noticeable damage until it succumbed to the toxins and passed out. Next up was a terrifying duo, Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Very versatile powerhouses that could easily put an end to my run if I don't play carefully. I send out Messi and immediately put her to sleep, and then follow up with the Petal Dance. Giovanni wastes his time on a guard spec, and Messi ends up victory dancing Nidoqueen to the grave. Next up is Nidoking, but unlucky for him, Messi is still trying to find his new groove and almost one-shots him due to Nidoking lacking the bulk his maternal counterpart has. Nidoking gets his get back though as it lands a Leer, and Messi ends up hitting himself with his own confusion. Realizing Messi can't take another hit, I switch out to Booba, who tanks a double kick. She then has to tank another one while I try to pull off a reflect. I realize Booba is in a bit of a predicament, so I then use Defense Curl to stack up my defense as Nidoking pops off yet another double kick. Tanking one more double kick, I use Rest and heal back up to full. Now, Nidoking's big double kicks do virtually nothing, so I finish him off with a Skull Bash. Giovanni's ace, Rhydon, is up next, and with Messi still injured, and a lack of faith in Booba's combat ability, I feel I have no other choice but to make the risky decision to send out Slicer X, even though Rhydon not only has Earthquake, but Horn Drill. We had a standoff for a while as I make my decision and say a couple prayers. After an eternity of staring at each other, we strike. Slicer X shoots a Hydro Pump and misses. Rhydon counters with an Earthquake, almost one-shotting Slicer X. Slicer X is almost down, but I know he outspeeds. I know Hydro Pump will one-shot, but if it misses her, he dies. I know Surf will hit, but I'm not sure if it one-shots. And if it doesn't, Slicer X is also dead. I decide to go with Plan B, and it succeeds. We defeat Rhydon in one shot and claim our final badge. I couldn't believe it. We made it. We had acquired all 8 badges in the Kanto region under my stupid rule set, and we were now on track to the Pokemon League. Before we were even allowed to step foot on campus though, our rival had a couple of words of congratulation for us. And by that, I mean he wanted to slaughter my team and then laugh. So I one-shot his Sand Slash with a Surf, paralyze his Execute, who Leech Seeds us in return. I switch out to Booger in order to avoid a Solar Beam, but Execute remains paralyzed. Switch back out to Light and take it down with a double Thunderbolt. Toxic is Magneton, which is the first time I've been able to poison one of these things in a while. Lots changed since 1996. It paralyzes us, but I just minimize and stall it out. I accidentally switch to Messi against Ninetales and promptly pivot over to Slicer X, who one-pumps it Hydro style. Take out Kadabra with the Double Surf Deluxe, and then absolutely blast and cut through my rival's Ace Vaporeon with Messi. Get good, loser. After going through the 8 gates, I decide to pick up our final Victory Road encounter, and decide he would be the best bet for victory against the Elite Four. I was kinda stumped on what to name him, but I got some inspiration when I remembered Light and Slicer X were the powerhouse duo, Booger and Booba were on the Cheese team, and so it naturally made sense Messi and this new Pokemon will work in conjunction the same way. Welcome to the team, the ball. We then went on our biggest grinding session yet, knocking out countless Pokemon for XP. We even at one point gave the ball his rite of passage to our team by making it take down the legendary bird of Victory Road, Moltres. I also ran into the issue to stop grinding, as leveling only to the first Elite Four members ace would be a death sentence for us, and leveling to the champions would be a death sentence for them. So for now, until I get some more suggestions from the viewers, I decided to grind the third member's ace. After that, I basically sell all of the items we accumulated over our journey, since they weren't going to do us any good sitting around in a PC when I could sell them to buy more full restores. Now, of course, even though we were able to amass a small fortune to buy out the Pokemon Mart's pharmaceutical department, this still didn't mean we were assured victory, as we were only allowed one healing item per member. These were mainly just to keep our team healthy between battles. Before entering the league, I looked at each of my members one last time. Light, Slicer X, Booger, Booba, Messi, the Ball. Each an integral member, except maybe Booba, to our ultimate goal, defeating the Pokemon League and winning our first of many games. I hadn't changed any of their movesets, except of course the Ball, who had Fire Blast, Dig, Earthquake, and Strength. Although I had a painful reminder in my memory for every time I felt confidence going into a battle, this time I was reassured. My team was strong, unique, and each of them had a role to play in our battle. But I'm sure you're all tired of my motivational pep talks about pixels on a screen. Let's get into the good stuff, shall we? First up was Lorelei, the Ice-type wielder. Lorelei and I square up, and it's Dugong against Light. I lead with Thunderbolt and sweep her Dugong and her Cloyster. Next up is her Slowbro, who I paralyze after it hits me with a dollar store Surf. I use Double Team as it proceeds to use Amnesia. Of course, in retaliation, I pee my pants and walk away from my computer. After regaining my senses, I use Thunderbolt, which does thankfully more damage than I thought. After taking it down with another Thunderbolt, Jinx comes out and I paralyze it while it puts me to sleep and then proceeds to slap me around Chris Brown style. A crit Thunderbolt one-shots it. Lapras comes out and 2 Thunderbolts later, we're victorious. It was pretty easy since most ice types are also water types, and we may be a bit over leveled now that I think about it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think an appropriate level cap would be for the Elite Foreign Champion. Next up was Bruno, the fighting type master who of course leads with, you guessed it, Onix. I take it out with the balls. I take it out with the... That's a really weird sentence to say. I take it out with the balls dig and switch to Booger for Hitmonchan. They use an X-Defend while I use Toxic. I then go to minimize, but I am outsped and hit with an Ice Punch that actually freezes me. Bruno uses this to set up another useless X-Defend against my stall, and then sets up a far more useful Double Team. Of course, Hitmonchan makes the blunder I was waiting for and uses Fire Punch, thawing me out. This gives me the perfect chance to minimize spam, dodging a couple attacks before tanking a Thunder Punch and watching Hitmonchan succumb to the Booger. Next up is Hitmonlee, who is also hit with Toxic. It uses Double Team to try and get on my level, but I am far too set up and I use Mega Drain and heal most of my health back. I then sit back and watch Hitmonlee miss a few attacks, and also succumb to Booger's homemade cheese. Next up is Onix, who Booger one-shots with a Mega Drain, healing back up to full. Finally, Machamp comes to play, and Booger sets up a Toxic. After a Sludge and a Mega Drain, Machamp also falls victim to the poison, and we secure our second victory against the Elite Four. Next is Agatha. I wasn't too worried about the first 2 Elite Four members, but I was about these guys, because her and Lance actually have good teams. Agatha in particular has moves like Psychic, paired with attacks such as Substitute, Confuse Ray, Dream Eater, Hypnosis, Glare, Toxic, and more. No, like seriously, there's more. It was a battle of cheese masters, and I was ready to Colby jack up her team. Please subscribe for more cheese jokes. Anyway, the Ball 2-shots Gengar after immediately breaking free from a Confuse Ray. And after that, Golbat comes out, who we mollywop with Light's Thunderbolt. We then proceed to give her Haunter the same treatment. Now it's the Ball versus Arbok, and I go for the classic EQ. But wait, Agatha switches out her Arbok for Gengar! Now in almost any other game this would have been a smart move, but this is a pre-levitate Gengar, so sucks to suck. Bye bye Gengar. And then Arbok gets wrecked by another EQ. Wow, Agatha was actually kind of a joke now that I think about it. And now here we are. The final battle before the champion, Lance. He leads with Gyarados, who gets absolutely destroyed by our 4x super effective Thunderbolt. We then switch to the Ball to deal with Dragonair. We take both out, each with 1 Earthquake, and out comes Aerodactyl. And then back goes Aerodactyl, because Light doesn't play no games! Out comes Dragonite, and so in order to secure victory, Cheese Master Booger comes out and drops a Toxic on this Puff from Wish. Booger tanks a Fire Blast in the process, and then proceeds to spam minimize until Lance is no more. There we have it, the Elite Four is done. After healing up my team, I immediately went to take down my rival, the champion, the final battle. My team had proven formidable. Well, mostly just light booger in the ball, but that's besides the point. We walked into the next room, and there he was, the champion, Camelot. He sends out Sandslash, who is immediately OHKO'd by Messi's Petal Dance. 5 left to go. Next up is Alakazam, arguably the most powerful Pokemon we have ever faced in this run. Right up there with the only other Alakazam we had to face. These Psychic types are actually OP in Gen 1. Anyway, we send out the ball and use Earthquake, instantly destroying Alakazam in a single hit. 4 left to go. Next up was Exeggutor, who I hit with a surprise Fire Blast, doing about a quarter health while it used Leech Seed. Another Fire Blast comes out and it burns them, only to make the difference back thanks to Leech Seed. I misclicked and used Dig, doing very little damage, but again, only delaying the inevitable. A final Fire Blast and Exeggutor has gone down. 3 left to go. Next up was Ninetales, and to be honest, I very well could have stayed in, but the ball had not only been destroying the champion mostly by himself, but he'd been absolutely destroying the Elite Four. So I only found it fair Slicer X got some of the spotlight. Hydro Pump gets Ninetales down to red HP, and Slicer X gets confused. He pulls through though, and with one more Hydro Pump, Ninetales is defeated. 2 left to go. Magneton comes out, and the ball takes it out with a single Earthquake. 1 left to go. Vaporeon. We go for a Thunder Wave. Vaporeon hits us back with a Hydro Pump, dealing almost half of Light's health. Go for a Thunderbolt. And with a critical hit, we get Vaporeon down to a sliver of HP. I think this may be it for Light, as another Hydro Pump has the chance to KO. But Vaporeon uses Mist. And just like that, with a final signature Thunderbolt, the battle is won. We become the champion, defeat our rival, and end leg 1 of the run. As I sat in the Hall of Fame, accepting my victory and looking over the team that gave us this victory, I thought about many things, about the strategies I employed, about how I changed and evolved throughout this run. I thought about the easy parts and the hard parts, and to be quite honest, there were a lot more easy parts. And I thought about what I had lost. When we almost lost the run at the Psychic type gym, I had felt terrible. I truly had grown attached to my trio of Pokemon at the time, and losing them had made a big impact on how the rest of the run played out. But I thought on it some more, and I realized perhaps it was for the best. When I had lost them, I may have missed out on bringing a Nidoqueen and Hypno to the next leg, but it paved the way for more interesting and unique strategies, and new incredible team members such as Slicer X, Booger, and the Ball. What I'm trying to say is, if this run has taught me anything, it's that I'm in this for the long haul. And so I may lose many Pokemon along the way, playing through dozens of games back to back to back, but no matter who I lose or what I may encounter, there's always another solution, and there's always a way forward. Hey, I hope you guys liked this video. Although there were undoubtedly a lot of flaws, I really feel like I pulled through and made something quite nice, don't you think? If you agree, I think you should definitely subscribe to stay notified for when the next episode comes out when we take on Pokemon Blue. Leave a comment down below if you liked the video, have a complaint, a suggestion, or want a certain Pokemon named after you. I'll see you next time. Peace.